about that throughout the day today. Joining us right now, does a tremendous job covering the Eagles for ESPN.com and 97.5 The Fanatic. Mr. Tim McManus on the Comcast Business Hotline. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing well, Ty. How about you?
Can't complain. Jalen Hurts today, you pointed it out earlier about him out there with the trainers. He said it was a rest day, and he was doing what he's told. It doesn't sound like he's concerned about missing the game on Sunday. Do you believe him?
Yeah, I believe him. I believe that he's not going to miss the game. It is kind of rare, though, Ty, for him to just sit out of practice because of rest. And so from what we saw is when we went out to practice, he wasn't there. He came probably 3 minutes later than normally would when the other guys were out there. Had a conversation with Nick Sirianni, then went over and did some stretching with the trainer off to the side. Did not participate in any of the warm-up drills, the individual drills. It was Kenny Pickett, kind of getting the first-team individual drill reps during that session. The fact that he's out there, lets you know that whatever is going on, doesn't seem to be a serious thing. But obviously, they decided to hold back on him participating today, and it's a long season, and they want to get him to the finish line here, and to this game on Sunday. So I don't think it's a big deal, but just worth noting.
Yeah, you know what's very impressive? I mean, you got a guy in Saquon Barkley now who picked up his third NFC Offensive Player of the Week this past weekend. I mean, how special is it to have him on this team in general?
It's unbelievable, and the fact that he only had 3 Player of the Week awards during his whole time in New York, Ricky. So, and now he's got 3 already in his short time here in Philadelphia. So that tells you a couple things. One, how incredible the player is, and 2, how important it is to have a supporting cast that can really highlight all of your abilities. And that's been on full display clearly throughout the course of this half a season. And the buzz continues inside that locker room for the reverse hurdle that he pulled off. Darius Slay today said, I've played with Megatron, and I think that Barkley is the best player I've ever played with. That's the kind of praise that he's getting internally. And Dallas Goedert was just talking about how mesmerized he and everybody else was when he saw Saquon pull that off, and they were watching it in the team meeting this week, and people just going crazy over it. So, that hasn't gone away. The excitement over Barkley, over that play, it's all still very palpable in that locker room.
And another player, Tim, and I want to give you credit. I'll give some other guys credit. You mentioned during training camp that DeVonta Smith was doing dynamic things, that he looked better than you had even seen him. And obviously he got paid this offseason, and I don't think a lot of people question how he will react. But you never know when a player gets paid. Do they rest on their laurels? Do they raise their game to a next level? These last few weeks, it seems like DeVonta Smith's playing at a level maybe we've never seen, and his synergy with Jalen Hurts has also been off the charts.
No question. And Smith isn't a guy that rests on his laurels based off my time around him. He's all football all the time, wanting to get better. And if that Barkley play didn't happen, I think a lot of the conversation it would be about that Smith catch. That was right up there. That, the Garrett Wilson one that happened on Thursday night. Okay, that steals the show a little bit too, but man, that's hard to do. 25 yards downfield, back of the end zone, one-handed, keep your feet in bounds. I don't know how you do that athletically, honestly. And he has a real gift when it comes to one of the best I've ever seen when it comes to just balance and body control. He's incredible. And so, sometimes he gets overshadowed because A.J. Brown is on this team. But as he said post-game on Sunday, when Brown goes down, I feel like an obligation to rise up. And I think that's just, that's obviously a big bonus for this team that they have 2 incredible wide receivers.
Should I feel good about the statement when Jalen Hurts says, you know what, we're not taking anyone lightly, Dallas is a good football team and blah, blah, blah? Is that the way they are approaching this week?
Yeah, it does feel that way. I mean, obviously, the headliner isn't going to be there in Dak Prescott, but Micah Parsons is coming back. So from Hurts', or at least it seems like he could be coming back. So from Hurts' perspective, he's going to have his hands full. And I don't know that this is a team that can really take another squad lightly. They have strung 2 strong performances back to back, but most of the season has been kind of like we saw this past week against Jacksonville, where maybe they look dominant, but they aren't able to pull away, or a team comes back late on them. So I don't feel like they should feel like they have arrived, or that they're above a division rival like the Cowboys. They haven't won there in quite a while. So yeah, I think that they're definitely focused in on this one.
We're speaking with Tim McManus, does a tremendous job covering the Eagles for ESPN.com and 97.5 The Fanatic. One of our themes today, Tim, and you grew up here, is about how, like, in addition to loving the Eagles, we always kind of hate Dallas. And one of the traditions, it seemed like for a long time, the players embodied that. I know Jeremiah Trotter, even Donovan McNabb, Westbrook, Shady McCoy, they all also hated Dallas. Now this year, all of a sudden, we have Slay doing a podcast after a loss with a Dallas Cowboy. And within the locker room, do you think that tradition where the players end up realizing how important the game it is and how much these fans hate Dallas, and they almost inherit that? Is that something that's a thing of the past? Or do somebody, in your opinion, do you think some of these guys understand that part of it too?
There's some guys that maybe hold on to that, but for the most part, I feel like it's a thing of the past. When I got onto the beat, the vivid memory that I have, one of them is Trent Cole. Whenever it was, whether it was Giants week or Cowboys week, he would just go into a different mode. And there were some times where he would actually like stand on his chair at his locker stall and do his interviews from there. And like, you would think that the game was going to start in 15 minutes, and it was a Wednesday. Like, that's how amped up a guy like that was for a division rivalry. And to be totally honest, like, that's almost totally gone now. Some of it is that, guys just, they don't view each other as much, I think, as rivals anymore. I think it's more like a fraternity. And a lot of guys change teams pretty frequently and change teams in division pretty frequently. So, like, even when I was talking to Saquon Barkley about it before the Giants game, like, that was kind of the message he was saying. He listed like 10 guys, they used to play on the Steelers, now they're on the Ravens, and so they just don't really have that kind of zest for it like players of the past have.
All right, you look at Lane Johnson leaving the field the other day with the thumbs down. Do you think this is going to play in a role like the rest of the season with them not taking their foot off the gas?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to. And again, I feel like Johnson has helped set the tone for things that he's saying during the course of the week, speaking up in meetings, things that he's saying post game, where he's just not settling for performances. Once this team, and is pushing this team, I think there's several leaders that are doing this to get better and to be better than they have. And so, there's lessons to be learned, and clearly the fact that they're doing it off of wins for the most part is a big benefit. But I think we all know, and part of the reason why there's unrest is because the imperfections that we've seen over the course of the first 8 games, or for most of them anyway, can come back to bite you in inopportune times against good games and against good teams in big games in critical moments. And that they're not there yet. That doesn't mean they can't get there, but from like a coaching standpoint to finishing, execution in certain circumstances, like it's not, they haven't arrived yet. So yeah, I think that there's all the more reason to make sure that you are focusing in on this one and going from the start of the whistle to the end.
Tim, we're running out of time here. I want to just last thing. The coach made a lot of weird decisions, and then Saquon was amazing. But on the one play where he didn't get the first down, I felt like, well, if you get the first down, I don't think Jacksonville gets the ball back. Is Nick Sirianni managing the game to where everybody knows all the situations, and is he reminding them? Because it just feels like some of his decisions, and then that Saquon play, because he had like he may have had the greatest football play in the history of the game, but then late, it's like you could have got that first down, and then they have to use all their timeouts. And instead he went down, and they ended up not getting that first down, and Jacksonville get the ball back. Is that an area that Nick Sirianni needs to tighten up?
I think that's fair. I mean, there has to be player accountability too. So Barkley has had a couple weird moments. I think it's fair to say, like, he's been amazing, obviously, but there's been also some decision-making that hasn't been exactly where you want it to be. So I put that more on the player, I think, in those circumstances. Obviously, the coach's responsibility to make sure that everybody's aware of the situations as much as they possibly can. But I think from Sirianni's vantage point, like, I don't know that I disagree with his general philosophy of being aggressive, or even if you pick each individual decision from last week and say, was this one okay? Was this one okay? Like, I don't know that you walk away and say, oh, these were all terrible decisions. But I think one thing that he does need to improve on is understanding game flow. Like, you can't just have a mentality of, we're an aggressive team, so we're going to be aggressive all the time. Like, that's not how it works. And even Vic Fangio said this week, like, I would go for it on fourth down a bunch or here and there when I was the head coach, but it depended on game flow. Like, that to me, that's the critical term that he needs to be focusing on more is, understand the game, the way that it's trending, and kind of match your decision making accordingly.
Thanks so much, Tim. We really appreciate it. Yeah, 18 and 17. 17's just fine when the other team has 0. So we understand where you're coming from when you talk about game flow, Tim. Thanks so much for all the great work as usual.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that was Tim McManus on the Comcast Business Hotline. Does a tremendous job covering Eagles for ESPN.com.